35 years, a certain mystical land has been recreated again and again, filling the hearts of millions, especially mine, with a sense of adventure unlike any other. Whether we are exploring this world in the second dimension or the third, be it in 8-bit or HD, this world has provided people like myself with an escape to get away from our troubles and be a hero. Exploring dungeons and temples, cutting down enemies both new and ancient to save the world from a great evil, all while set against gorgeous music and even more beautiful storytelling, for me, this is the greatest franchise in gaming history. I'm of course referring to the Kingdom of Hyrule and the Legend of Zelda series. For me, the Legend of Zelda is everything, and I may or may not have a problem when it comes to collecting Zelda things. Personally, I am really looking forward to what Nintendo may have planned to celebrate the hero of Hyrule this year, and getting to write a segment on the subject is truly the coolest thing to me. So let's get into it. In fact... This month, in celebration of that 35-year history I spoke of, Nintendo is re-releasing one of the most unique and arguably influential titles in the series in glorious HD for the Nintendo Switch, Skyward Sword. Originally released in 2011 on the Nintendo Wii, Skyward Sword is a Zelda game unlike any other. The color scheme was based on watercolors, the visual style was designed in a way that the further off in the distance the scenery is, the more it looks like an impressionist painting, particularly inspired by the works of Paul Cézanne. It was released as a celebratory title for the series' 25th anniversary, and it was also the 16th mainline entry in the series. In fact, the game was created as an origin story for the franchise as a whole. Skyward Sword sees for the first time Link and Zelda having a close personal relationship. They were childhood friends who grew up together at the Skyloft Knight Academy, and the story is set in motion when the self-proclaimed demon lord Girahim creates a cyclone that pulls Zelda down from the sky to the hidden surface world. Obviously, this results in Link journeying to rescue her with the help of his new companion Fi. Without spoiling too much of the story for those of you who did not play this game during its original release, as Link we fight Girahim multiple times, discover the origins of the Master Sword and Triforce, and watch as Link and Zelda establish the Kingdom of Hyrule themselves. This entry into the Zelda franchise was clearly meant to be one of, if not the most emotional, and I honestly think they hit the nail on the head there. I'll be honest, I ugly cry at the end of this game every single time I play through it. But perhaps the thing that makes this game the most unique is the fact that it kind of forced Nintendo to establish an official Zelda timeline. For years, fans speculated and fought over what a correct chronology of the Zelda games would look like, all based on both direct and tenuous connections between the games. There were multiple ideas, but the mother of all theories was the split timeline theory, all because of how Ocarina of Time ends. The greatest support for that one was the story of the ancient hero from Wind Waker. As that game opens, it explains that the hero of time sealed away a great evil, but then vanished, leaving that evil to break free and wreak havoc across the land, resulting in the gods flooding Hyrule and sealing it beneath the Great Sea, all because the Link we knew in Ocarina of Time went back in time, never to return to the era in which he sealed Ganon. It can be argued that by creating an origin story for all of Hyrule, the Triforce, the Master Sword, and the struggle to seal away the greatest evil, the fans forced Nintendo's hands in creating the very thing they denied existed. Not only that, but they also released what can basically be described as a historical text of the series as Hyrule Historia. The first of 3 volumes of insider development info on the franchise, Hyrule Historia lays out the entire chronology of The Legend of Zelda in terms of development, production, concept art, and of course the official timeline. So how does this official timeline shape out? Well, the beginning of the timeline is referred to as the legend of the goddess and the hero and begins with the creation of the world. Once the events of Skyward Sword conclude, the sacred realm is sealed and the Kingdom of Hyrule is established. Shortly after begins the Force era, in which the Minish Cap unfolds. Here we learn of an evil sorcerer named Vati who is sealed away by Link with the help of the Picori, aka the Minish, only for Vati to be resurrected shortly after in 4 swords. Once Vati's threat is eliminated, Hyrule enters a period of civil war, which is shortly followed up by the events of Ocarina of Time. As I said before, this is where things get interesting and the timeline splits. First, let's assume Link dies in his final battle with Ganondorf in Ocarina of Time. Should Link's quest be cut short in this fight, Hyrule's history branches off into what is called the Decline of Hyrule and the Last Hero, or more commonly referred to as the Hero is Dead timeline. Once Ganon kills Link and gets his hands on the Triforce pieces both Link and Zelda possessed, he gains his true power. In a last resort effort to stop him, Princess Zelda and the other 6 sages seal him away in the Sacred Realm. A war then breaks out where people sought to steal the power of the gods for themselves, called the Imprisoning War, which leads Hyrule into an era of light and dark, where Ganon's time in the Sacred Realm transformed it into the Dark World. Here we see the events of A Link to the Past take place. An evil priest named Aghanim sought to undo the seal on the Dark World and resurrect the Demon King Ganon, but was stopped by Link, one of the last remaining descendants of the Knights of Hyrule. Upon Ganon's defeat in the Dark World, his surrogate mothers from Ocarina of Time, Kotake and Koame, aka Twinrova, reappear and seek a new way to bring him back. It is at this time that both Oracle of Seasons, then Oracle of Ages take place. After saving Holodrum and Librana in their respective games, Link fought to bring down Twinrova, who sacrificed themselves in order to resurrect Ganon with their last breaths. Luckily, the ceremony was incomplete and the hero was able to dispatch him once again. Link then boards a ship to find a new land to train in, only for him to become shipwrecked in a terrible storm and wash ashore on Koholint Island, setting off the journey scene in Link's Awakening. Hyrule then enters a golden era in which each generation of king uses the power of the Triforce to maintain peace and order. One such king fears that the power might fall into the wrong hands after he dies and hides the Triforce of Courage away, only entrusting its location to his daughter Zelda as opposed to her more wicked brother. It is through his cruelty and lust for that power that an evil wizard casts a spell to make Zelda sleep for all eternity, creating the tragedy of Princess Zelda I. Eventually, a young boy named Link comes to visit what is now Lesser Hyrule and is entrusted the task of restoring the now broken Triforce of Wisdom in The Legend of Zelda. Link remains in Hyrule after defeating Ganon to help rebuild, but 6 years later is tasked with preventing his return and breaking the curse on Princess Zelda I in Zelda 2: Adventure of Link, finally restoring peace. But what if Link survives his fight with Ganondorf and takes him down? Well, then we have two different branches to look at, the child and adult eras. In the child era, Link returns to his original time, warning Princess Zelda of Ganondorf's true plan before he sets off on a journey to find Navi. While traveling for months, Link finds himself in a mysterious forest where he's attacked by the Skull Kid and led to a parallel world called Termina in Majora's Mask. Once Link dispels the chaos brought on by the mischievous magic within the mask, he leaves Termina never to be seen or heard of again. It isn't until years later that back in Hyrule, Ganondorf is finally executed for his plot to steal the Triforce and rule the world. His botched execution and subsequent banishment to the Twilight Realm are what set in motion the events of Twilight Princess. The legacy of the Hero of Time is then passed down through mystical teachings to his ancestor, another Link, who puts an end to Ganondorf and the Twilight Era. Several hundred years later, a new Ganondorf is born to the Gerudo people. Seeking to plunge Hyrule into darkness, he steals powerful relics that weaken the seal on the evil wind sorcerer Vati, the same one from earlier. This branch of the timeline concludes with Four Swords Adventures seeing Link finally put an end to the sorcerer and using the Four Sword to seal Ganon away again. As for the adult era, things pick up after Link disappears from the world in Wind Waker. Guided by the King of Red Lions, Link travels the Great Sea to become the Hero of Wind and put a stop to Ganondorf yet again. A wish is made upon the Triforce to destroy Hyrule in its entirety, entrusting Link and Tetra with the task of locating a new land and a new future. Phantom Hourglass picks up on Link and Tetra's journey to seek out that new world. Their trek across the sea is interrupted when Tetra boards a ghost ship and ends up kidnapped by an evil dream god called Bellum. With the help of the Ocean King, Link is able to rescue Tetra and return them to their world to continue their journey. Together, Link and Tetra and her pirates come upon a new continent at the heart of which sits the Tower of Spirits. It is here that they found the kingdom of New Hyrule and begin a new history. 100 years later, the events of Spirit Tracks begin to unfold. The descendants of Tetra and the Link that was the Hero of Winds band together to stop the evil demon King Malladus and Chancellor Cole from taking control, ending the adult era. If you read the information Hyrule Historia has to offer, it becomes clear there are a lot of unanswered questions about the history of Hyrule and its future. For example, where do Breath of the Wild and its sequel fall in the timeline? Is it at the end of the child or adult eras? Do they take place after Adventure of Link? Or do they fall in between other games somewhere? Either way, with Skyward Sword getting an HD remaster this month for the Switch, it gives me a lot of hope for what's to come with this series. Whether you're reliving the origins of Hyrule like me for the 35th time, or you're experiencing it for the first time ever, I truly hope it helps you fall in love with the series as much as I have. But that's enough of me fanboying over the series for now. Make sure you go to GameStop.com or speak to a guest advisor at your local GameStop store to secure your copy today. The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD releases for the Nintendo Switch on July 16th, 2021. Don't forget you can find more videos like this one on the GameStop YouTube channel. Just look for All In. And as always, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Lord Azria and on Twitch at twitch.tv/the_retrocade. Until next time, guys, I've been Cole Feuchter, and this has been All In.